Hey y'all, I'm your host, Aaron Smith of the Offshore Marine Service Association. Each Friday, I'll bring you the Offshore Briefing, a quick rundown of the week's notable developments, updates, and news you need to know in the offshore space. Whether you're on deck or at your desk, we're glad you're here. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Offshore Briefing, put together by Maritime in America. I am your host, Aaron Smith, and with me, as always, I have my co-host, Angel Johnson and Ashley Smith. How are y'all doing today?
Just lovely.
Doing good today.
Been a long week.
Long week. Long week.
Well, I think I have a few stories. So if y'all don't mind, I'm going to start because I saw, and this kind of goes, I think, to what Ashley wants to talk about. So I was going to talk first. So this week, it was the Department of Interior settled with REW, a global energy developer, to provide $1.2 billion settlement for REW to walk away from its offshore wind claims. So just for those keeping score at home, what you have now is you have that the United States government has paid Total, a French company, between $795 million and $928 million. And then REW, a German company, $1.22 billion. And then I think you can probably also throw in there Blue Point Wind, which is some U.S., but also international investors, as well as Golden State Wind, which is international. Golden State was paid $120 million, and Blue Point was paid $765 million, all to walk away from offshore wind developments.
That's absolutely absurd. And do you think this was the plan all along?
So this was $3 billion going to foreign energy developers to not develop energy in the United States of America. And more than that, this is $3 billion to foreign developers to say, hey, we're sorry we changed the rules of the game on you after you made financial commitments. Here's money just so you walk away. My question is, what about all the U.S. vessel operators who made commitments to offshore wind, who've had the rug yanked out from under them? So the developers are all getting paid, but the supply chain, specifically the U.S. vessel operators, not getting paid. REW, German, Total, French, together that's $2 billion. What about Great Lakes Dredge and Dock? Built the Acadia. It's going to go overseas because there are not scour protection projects here in the United States now. What about them? What about Geis? What about North Star? All these Atlantic Oceanic. What about all of these companies that committed American dollars in America for American jobs? Why don't they get paid back?
But seriously, why not?
How is
that fair?
I'm not asking a rhetorical question here. I'm asking a real question.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I wanted to keep my.
And also, they need to reimburse me for having to deal with all this stupid stuff. It's just so. Pay me just to deal with all of y'all.
It's called your salary.
Just like 1%. That's man.
So I have multiple soapboxes today, so I wanted to just get that soapbox out of the way quickly here. Ashley, what do you want to talk about?
I will not be on my Catholic Archdiocese, specifically the St. Catherine Parish Diocese soapbox. I got off that one. Specifically, Father Tim, you know who you are.
Since when?
Well, because I kind of raged on Tuesday night about it. Okay. I was, just going through articles like I always do on Thursdays in anticipation of this and Friday Fast Facts. And I saw one from a Houston newspaper titled Offshore Oil Port Draws Opposition at Port Arthur Hearing. And so I was reading about it, and then I remembered all this. So it's the port it's in Cameron Parish. However, this was all happening in the Sabine Port Arthur area. So that's why they were doing the what's it called? The hearing in the Port Arthur area. And it's about putting in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, about a terminal that would allow one very large crude carrier to moor and load oil at a time. So rather than have multiple boats in and out, you could bring huge vessels or carriers in and out, correct?
Well, it's not in and out. It's offshore. It's far offshore.
That's what I'm,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like
So I meant
it's like loop.
my point, I meant like having one rather than like 15 do it, the job.
Yes.
And to read the comments or both sides, like some are saying this is going to just make this is going to endanger everything, but it's like it's already happening anyway. And then you get the other side saying actually it's environmental friendly because you're having less pollution and less travel. So it's really interesting. But when we were chatting about it, you touched upon something else I didn't even think about when I was reading this.
Yes. So right now, we are experiencing, and there are multiple articles quoted as saying that the domestic oil supply is getting dangerously low right now. We are in a place where we are exporting record amounts of specifically diesel fuel and diesel distillates. And those are all going overseas to cover up for what is not being exported out of Iran and the Middle East through Hormuz. So we are then covering that global gap with domestic oil that is being produced here. Meanwhile, they're saying we have to waive the Jones Act, and there's actually talks about extending the current waiver because we need more domestic oil supply. Well, if we need more domestic oil supply, why are we allowing so many exports when oil companies are making record profits capitalizing on the foreign shortage? We're seeing, I just was looking at some other articles here that are just, man, it is a massive shortfall that could easily start. I mean, I think you could start seeing diesel prices on the West Coast be like $10.
Speaking of diesel, I have to, with Campbell driving her around, we went to get gas, and I was like, if you ever see the green nozzle, that's diesel. Do not use it in my car.
Yes. Yeah. But I did.
Now I'll just say when it says $10 a gallon, that's diesel. Don't put it in my car.
But with the Port Arthur port,
yeah,
that's an interesting story there.
I know. And I also was reading it because I always think, if it goes through and it could open opportunities for other types of exportation in our ports in Louisiana. When something like this happens, it always gets an idea for something else to happen. So it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Well, there you have actually another connection to this.
LNG ports?
No, it actually all comes from the Deepwater Port Act of 1974, which the Deepwater Port Act was, as you can imagine, was signed into law in 1974, and it allowed for deepwater ports to be built off America for import purposes. And it stayed from 1974 until 2012 to be only for importation purposes only, until there was a young, dashing, incredibly brilliant young legislative staffer who added 2 words to the Deepwater Port Act of import, quote, or export, to that law, and that is what's enabling these ports to be built.
I've never met a dashingly handsome, so I don't know who it is. Gonna leave that there to chew on.
That's why I agreed to let you talk about this story today.
Shut up, really?
Yeah.
Loser.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, that's my soapbox. I just thought it was interesting. My brain's fried.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to go back and talk then about, again, like we're talking about the Jones Act waiver here, because it does look like what we are seeing is there will be an extension of the waiver. I'm betting it will be announced today when people are listening to this Friday. I'm betting the Jones Act waiver will be extended. I would be willing to bet it's going to be put at another 90 days because I think they will want to extend it through the election. That's what I'm thinking based upon articles that I've seen and conversations that I've had. That's what I expect to see. And I mean, I just think we are doubling down on a failed policy here. So far the waiver has been utilized almost 200 times and has moved only 48 million barrels of petroleum products. Now that sounds like a lot, but that means that is 56 hours of domestic utilization of U.S. petroleum products. We're talking about 1.7% of the total fuel utilized in the United States. And here's the thing. This waiver is being issued under a national defense purpose. There's two types of waivers for the Jones Act, and it has to be for a national defense interest. Gas prices are not national defense. And in fact, every single ounce of fluid that has been moved under the waiver has been moved is inapplicable or is not able to be used for military vehicles. So all of the jet fuels that's been used cannot get put into U.S. fighter jets. It cannot get put into tanks or other military vehicles. So it is a national security waiver that is not doing anything for national security. And again, I said it before, this waiver is coming at a time where even President Trump said, they are, quote, making too much money. Exxon reported a quarterly profit of $14.5 billion in the second quarter. That's up 105% from the previous year, 105% up from the previous from the previous quarter, excuse me. So all we're doing is transferring American jobs to foreign mariners and transferring our dollars to the pockets of oil executives. That's what all this waiver has done, and it's quite shocking.
Aaron, you said you predict that it will be, the waiver will be extended again. Will it be, I know that we previously talked about it, will it be extended, will it be under exactly the same kind of waiver, or are there going to be alterations to it?
I've heard they're considering alterations. I don't think it matters. Look, like I said, so there's two waivers under the Jones Act, 501A and 501B. 501A is a national defense waiver that's just blanket. Just DOD secretary says there's a national defense emergency. We need to waive the Jones Act. Nothing that has to be done. 501B, and that's the current waiver we're in. 501B is not that severe. 501B is there is an emergency and there's not U.S. vessels that can meet the domestic need, and there have to be market tests that are done under a 501B waiver. But my contention is if they've manipulated a 501A, they're going to manipulate a 501B. Again, we don't meet the statutory definition of 501A. So they're just ignoring that. What do you think they're going to just ignore the market test under 501B? If anyone doesn't think that, they need to come and look at the offshore industry and see what we've seen, how people will find any reason they can to use a foreign vessel. Oh, there aren't U.S. vessels available. Well, yes, there are. Here they are. Oh, no. We needed a different vessel. That's all it's going to be. They're just going to manipulate this, So 501B, they have to do a market test. Here's what you're going to see. It's going to be people will come to MARAD and say, so, hey, Mr. MARAD, I need to move 101,000 barrels of oil, and there's not a U.S. vessel available. And MARAD will go out to a market survey, and they'll find, oh my gosh, well, the top U.S. carrier can only move 100,000 barrels of oil. Oh, guess we can't do it. Here's your Jones Act waiver. That's what's going to happen. And so it doesn't matter if they move to a 501B. That will just be like some little the administration trying to pat the maritime industry on the head and say oh, here you go. We're not totally taking your jobs. Now run along, little boy. No, it's not going to work. I just can't believe it. And, like we were talking about with Zach Williams, all this is about and why I think they'll extend it through the election is because everyone knows this isn't working. It's not lowering gas prices. It's certainly not providing a national defense benefit. It's not meeting any objective standard of necessity or need. All it is it's putting gas prices and Trump administration does something in the same sentence. It doesn't matter what the rest of that sentence is. It doesn't matter that the Jones Act is in that sentence. I think the administration just wants that sentence to be the headline. It could be, fairy dust and unicorns and magical mythical animals, as long as it leads to a sentence that says addressing rising gas prices. That's all they want.
I'm tired of the gas.
I know. You know what
prices.
it just reminds me of, y'all? It's like, for example, Macy's going to a birthday party. I needed to buy a present, right? And I thought to myself, I could get on Amazon and I could order something. And I was like, you know what? No, shop local support. Go to FINA, buy something there. It's just, I know it's easier to buy from China, but no, I'm going to support the Woodwards who own FINA and are lovely and do stuff for they donate stuff for the school. They're giving back to our community. That's what I think of when we constantly talk about this stuff is shop local.
I had no idea where you were going with that, but you landed the airplane.
Did I land the plane?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Well, I think those are all of our rants. Well, and we've just alluded to other rants, but I think those are all of the rants we have time for, at least today.
Yep.
Well, all right. Well, I hope everyone has a good weekend. If there is a waiver, you will see our statement being released shortly.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
That wraps up another episode of Maritime in America. We're proud to highlight the voices and stories that keep the American offshore industry strong. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and remember, the course ahead is shaped by those who step up and steer. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Tune in every Friday for your offshore briefing, and don't miss our next full episode, dropping soon with a very special guest, Mariner's Perspective. Catch you next time.